besides the shit he said about Bronny and Summer League.
I was wondering if you guys were able to get past that.
But other than that, you know, we've been all right, you know.
You guys able to get past that?
You know, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
LeBron James just sat down after a game against the Celtics and said something that nobody expected. He brought up Jaylen Brown, called him an MVP candidate, and then, almost casually, reminded the entire world about that Bronny comment. 2 years later, and LeBron has not forgotten a single word. This story just got a whole lot more interesting. Here is the question before we get into it. Do you think Jaylen Brown was wrong for what he said about Bronny at Summer League, or was he just telling the truth? Drop your honest take in the comments right now. Let's go all the way back to where this started because the full story matters here, and a lot of people have either forgotten the details or only caught the highlight version. It is the 2024 NBA Summer League. Bronny James, LeBron's son, first-round pick of the Los Angeles Lakers, is out there playing. And Jaylen Brown, who at the time was watching the game, was caught on camera leaning over to his then-girlfriend, Kaiser Gondrezick, and saying, clear as day, "I don't think Bronny is a pro." Not whispered, not vague, not some ambiguous comment that could be interpreted multiple ways. Plain, direct, on camera, about the son of one of the most powerful and emotionally invested fathers in the history of professional basketball.
I don't understand why Jaylen Brown is getting so much shit for being caught on TV saying, I don't think Bronny is a pro. Nothing he said there is wrong. Bronny is probably not at a pro level right now. And then he quote tweets the video. He goes, it's a flex to have your son alongside you in the NBA. It reflects greatness and longevity. Bronny has all the tools around him to be successful. I look forward to watching his growth. Nothing he said in either the what happened on TV or the kind of apology on Twitter was wrong. He's not a pro, but he could be good someday. Bang.
Now look. A lot of people agreed with Jaylen Brown. That is the inconvenient part of this story that tends to get glossed over whenever the drama gets rehashed. Bronny James entering the NBA was one of the most scrutinized roster decisions in recent memory. Questions about whether he was truly NBA ready were everywhere, from analysts, from fans, from people inside the league who were not going to say it publicly, but were absolutely saying it privately. Jaylen Brown just happened to be the one whose private comment became very public. And when the clip went viral, Brown did what most people do when a hot mic moment blows up. He went to social media. He posted on X. He wrote, and this is worth reading carefully, "It's a flex to have your son alongside you in the NBA. It reflects greatness and longevity. Bronny has all the tools around him to be successful. I look forward to watching his growth." That is a very polished response. Very carefully worded. Very much the kind of thing a publicist helps you write after a crisis meeting. It acknowledged the moment without fully apologizing for the opinion. It redirected towards something positive about LeBron's legacy. And it basically said, I see Bronny, I respect the situation, we are moving on. Except LeBron James is not really the moving on type when it comes to his son.
What have you made of his season, and what's your relationship been like with him over the years?
What's the season been like? I mean, I think you just use the motivation of a lot of people just saying that they're going to have a down year because of, you know, obviously JT being out, you know, them losing Drew, leaves, Porzingis leaves, their whole championship team pretty much is kind of revamped, and he uses that as motivation to keep them afloat. They're playing great basketball, and it's because of him and the rest of those guys. He's taking that next step. You know, our relationship has been, pretty respectful.
And that brings us to Sunday night. The Lakers just got handled by the Celtics. Final score, 111-89. A blowout. Not a close game, not a back-and-forth battle, a blowout. And in the post-game press conference, LeBron is asked about Jaylen Brown, about his season, about their relationship. And here is where it gets genuinely interesting because LeBron's answer was not what anyone expected. He started by talking about Brown's season in a way that was almost glowing. He talked about how Brown has used the doubters as fuel, how everyone predicted the Celtics would fall apart this year. Jason Tatum is out with injury, Kristaps Porzingis left, Al Horford left. Essentially, the entire championship roster from a couple years ago has been broken up and rebuilt. And yet Jaylen Brown has kept that team not just functional, but legitimately competing at the top of the Eastern Conference.
We guys able to get past that?
You know, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Yeah, we'll be all right. I think he went on social media and said something about it. It's all good, but Ronnie got a long way to go, but that's another story. So, but the kid, I mean, listen, JB is doing shit. He's playing great basketball, man. And you can't fault this. This whole MVP thing. I don't understand why his name is not getting talked about some as well. Like, nobody gave him a shot to start the season. And he's averaging, 30?
Yeah, just under.
Yeah, just under 30.
LeBron said it clearly. He's taken that next step. He talked about Brown averaging just under 30 points a night. He brought up the MVP conversation unprompted and asked why Brown is not being talked about more seriously as a candidate. I don't understand why his name is not getting talked about some as well. Like, nobody gave him a shot to start the season. And then he said the thing that made everyone in that room pause. It's a popularity contest sometimes, I tell you. That last line is doing a lot of work. Because LeBron James saying the MVP race is a popularity contest is not just a comment about Jaylen Brown. That is a comment rooted in LeBron's own complicated history with that award. A man who dominated the league for years, who put up numbers that should have won him more hardware than he received, who watched the votes go in directions that felt political rather than performance-based. When LeBron calls it a popularity contest, he is speaking from a very specific place of personal frustration. But here's the part that the internet grabbed onto and ran with. Because right in the middle of all this genuine praise for Jaylen Brown, LeBron slipped in the line, almost casually, almost like it just fell out of his mouth before he could catch it. Our relationship has been, pretty respectful. Besides he said about Bronny at Summer League. And then he kept going, almost like he did not just drop a small bomb into the middle of his own press conference. He followed it up with, but other than that, we've been all right, We'll be all right. And when pushed on whether they got past it, we'll be all right. I think he went on social media and said something about it. It's all good. But Bronny got a long way to go. But that's another story. Bronny got a long way to go. But that's another story. Now unpack that for a second. Because LeBron is essentially doing three things at once in that answer, and each one of them is deliberate. First, he is acknowledging the comment publicly for the first time in a direct way. He has not really gone on record addressing the Brown-Bronny situation directly before this moment. Second, he is signaling that it bothered him. You do not bring something up unprompted in a press conference 2 years after it happened if it did not matter to you. If it truly did not matter, it would not cross your mind while answering a question about Jaylen Brown's MVP candidacy. The fact that it surfaced there, in that context, in that answer, tells you exactly how much real estate it still occupies in LeBron's head. Third, he wrapped the whole thing in enough grace and humor to avoid it becoming a full-blown public conflict. The "we'll be all right" line repeated 3 times is LeBron controlling the temperature of the room. He is letting people know the tension exists without letting it escalate into something that becomes the headline instead of the basketball. That is actually masterful media management. Frustrating for people who wanted a more direct confrontation, but masterful. Now here's the sarcastic part of this whole story that deserves to be said out loud. LeBron James, a man who famously went to war with Stephen A. Smith over Bronny coverage, who has been visibly protective of his son's reputation and career to a degree that some people found over the top, is out here casually crediting Jaylen Brown for MVP consideration while simultaneously reminding everyone that Brown called his son not a professional basketball player. And he is doing it with a smile, in a post-game presser, after a blowout loss. The emotional range required to pull that off is genuinely impressive. Most people, after losing by 22 points, are not in the headspace to generously campaign for their opponent's individual award while also sliding in a 2-year-old grievance about their kid. LeBron James is not most people. But let's talk about the Bronny angle more directly because Bronny got a long way to go, but that's another story, is honestly one of the most interesting things LeBron has said publicly about his son in a while. Because it is an admission. A subtle one, but an admission. LeBron is not sitting here telling the world Bronny is an all-star in waiting. He is not making the argument that Jaylen Brown was completely wrong. He is saying Bronny has a long way to go, which is essentially agreeing with the substance of what Brown said, while still maintaining that the way it was said, on camera, publicly, about his son, was not okay. That is a very important distinction. You can disagree with someone's delivery and still know their content was accurate. And LeBron James, who has watched his son play professional basketball up close, knows better than anyone that Bronny James is a developmental project. A young player with real tools and a real future potentially, but not someone who is walking into the league as a finished product. Nobody serious argued otherwise. The debate was never about whether Bronny was ready. The debate was about whether it was Jaylen Brown's place to say it out loud on camera. And now here we are in 2026. Bronny is not even in tonight's game. LeBron is praising his opponent. The Celtics just won by 22. And the internet is rewinding a Summer League clip from 2024 like it happened yesterday because LeBron James decided to bring it back up himself. The truly sarcastic observation here is that Jaylen Brown's comment, which was supposed to be a private moment, ended up being something that followed both of these people for 2 full years and counting. Brown had to go damage control on social media. The relationship between 2 of the league's biggest names has had an asterisk next to it ever since. And LeBron, who handled Stephen A. Smith with significantly less grace when Bronny was the topic, found a way to fold the whole thing into a press conference about MVP candidates with a calm that, frankly, nobody predicted. If anything, the person who comes out of this moment looking most complicated is actually LeBron. Because on one hand, he is generous enough to campaign for the guy who insulted his son. On the other hand, he made sure the world knew he has not forgotten. That combination of graciousness and long memory is a very specific kind of message. It says, I am bigger than this, but I remember everything. Jaylen Brown, for his part, is averaging 29.2 points a night. He is carrying a rebuilt Celtics team. He is getting MVP votes from one of the greatest players in NBA history, even though that same player just reminded everyone publicly that Brown said his son was not a real professional basketball player. The NBA is genuinely never boring. And this particular chapter of it has layers that are still unfolding. LeBron James could have ignored the whole Bronny situation and just talked basketball. Instead, he brought it right back up with a smile and kept it moving. That tells you everything you need to know about how this league really works. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button and subscribe. More stories like this are on the way.